Welcome back. It is day three. Day three, JW Org versus Norway. JW Org is suing Norway for 50 million of Norway dollars, which is about 5 million US. They want their registration back, among other things. So we're going to look at this on day three. So let's get right into it. Now, for those of you that have been following the court case, we have a video out for day one and day two. So now we're into day three. Now, for those of you that are just looking in on this, if you hang in after I cover day three, I will be doing a summary of day one and two. And I will also be looking at an article written by Jan Nielsen. So he's one of the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses up in Norway that's taken a lead on this project. So hang in there. We're going to get right into day three. What's happened so far? They went to court. JWs want their status back. Then the state said, okay, well, let's look at some stuff. They looked at some videos. That's what we looked at yesterday. And the videos show that shunning and is normal. This is what this religion does. And it kind of spelled a different story than what the Jehovah's Witness lawyer said in the very beginning. So let's take this further. Today, the trial is about Jehovah's Witnesses. So it looks like there's a lineup of Jehovah's Witnesses that are put in front of the court now, and now they're going to talk about what they believe. And probably what's happened is no one really knows what anybody's saying. You know, these guys they can't look in. So you know how courts are done, right? Okay, well, here it is. This is right from the newspaper. Right from the newspaper in Norway, January 10th, 2024, the Vartland. And Jehovah's Witnesses versus the state. That's kind of what that says. Now these are the Jehovah's Witnesses who are testifying all day today in court today. So there's the name. You know, this is one of them. I don't know if I could pronounce that. Torila Sor. Pause, of course, isn't a name. They're going to take a break, I'm thinking. Here's another fella, Lars Peter Henriks, Catherine Quist, Luns, Gun Merit Dalen, Tron Hagun again. Sorry, guys, if I'm saying this all wrong. Another pause. I don't think that's the same guy. I think they're going to have another coffee break. And then Catherine Georgestad and Tonji Strangeland. Okay, anyways, they're not getting a lot of time. They're just going to be coming up and asked a few questions. So it says these JW witnesses confirmed shunning. So these are all JWs that were put on the stand. They confirmed family contact would be broken, and they still feel it is what the Bible says. Like, all Jehovah's Witnesses know this. So for the Jehovah's Witness lawyer to get up there and say, no, it's not like this, it's not like that, it's not that bad, it's just like all the other religions. You see, they've been doing that forever. And then they've been telling the state, you can't get into our records, there's a division, religion and state, leave us alone, we practice freedom of religion. They've been throwing that at the courts for decades. This is the first time that this is a really interesting approach that the Norway court has taken. So they've grabbed some Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know if they're off the street or who they are. They put them up. They watch the JW lawyers lie through their teeth about shunning, and then these guys come up and say, yeah, it's what we do. We believe in it. Shunning. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses practice shunning. That's why it's so terrible, because if you're on the outside and you just wanted to leave with no reason at all, you're shunned, and it's terrible. So these witnesses confirm shunning. And then remember, yesterday the videos right off jw.org confirmed shunning in it, talked all about it, and talked all about the feelings of shunning and everything. It really confirmed it. And then it confirmed baptism. Young baptism. Unbaptized publishers. Caleb and Sophie. So that's in day 2. But this is getting interesting. Strangely, it says JW spent the first day of the trial saying that family contact would not be broken. This is the JW lawyer, right? He spent the first day saying that. But then today, having all these witnesses confirm that family contact is broken. Very powerful. The JW lawyer basically refuted their own indoctrination day, Monday 8th. So yeah, these JWs that got up refuted the JW lawyer, what he said on Monday. So it's like within, there's a, they're not speaking the same thing. So the JW witnesses were clear that they supported the disfellowshipping arrangement. That was for their own protection, and they want it to be like this. So that was brought out in court. And one of the JW testimonials was used to attack this fella. This here, I guess this name is a group. It's a group name for ex-JW victims. So just like we have different helplines up here, ex-JW victims can get some help, so they have a group there. And so they attack the group, the victims on the outside. And that seems to be a thing. This Risdell, he's the JW lawyer. He spent time trying to paint the group as aggressive and not trustworthy. So this is what the JW lawyers do. They'll point their fingers at us. They don't even know us. They don't know anything what we're doing, but they paint us as aggressive and not trustworthy. So it's very interesting. So that brings an end to day 3. Now we're gonna for those of you that want to look at a summary, we're gonna go all the way back to the top, and we're gonna summarize day 1 and 2. So this is the JW versus the Norway trial updates. Now I haven't read this article. This is a different source, and thanks to Ron Pomo. And also this is a summary from Jan Frode Nielsen, which explains everything behind the case. So this is a summary from Jan right here. So I have that. We're going to cover that summary right here off his Reddit post, the summary status. We're going to do that next. But first of all, we're just going to summarize day 1 and day 2 for those of you that didn't get it. Or maybe you want to just see a different approach, just a different journalist. So day 1, January 8, 2024, the JW legal team presents their arguments. And we've seen that picture from our first video. Risdell is the JW lawyer. He spent a lot of time trying to discredit Jan Frode Nielsen and Rolf Feruli. So I'm assuming Rolf kind of works with Frode, probably both ex-JWs, and this is what the Jehovah's Witness lawyers do. They'll look at the people that have left, and they'll find anything they can to bring their deficiencies on the table. But you see, it won't work here. It worked with the Canadian case with Wall and Watchtower, but it won't work here because this is not a case against Jan Nielsen or Rolf. So it's not against those ex-JWs. This is between Norway and JW.org. So for them to try to pull other people on the scene and discredit them and make them look ugly in front of the court, it's not going to work this time. So this is interesting. Now, the JW lawyer claimed in court that getting out of the organization, out of the Jehovah's Witnesses, had no consequences for Jan, and therefore he is not trustworthy. That's what they brought out. So, what a thing to say, because it has consequences to us all. We lose all our family. We lose our whole family ties, all our friends, everything. It's really hard for most people. Now, the JW lawyer claimed in court that getting out of the JW had no consequences, and then he said he also demanded, this JW lawyer, that the court disregards all Watchtower material from the case, that the states are not allowed to look into religious material. You know, the state and government are supposed to be separate, right? They use that on every case that they do, Watchtower. Now, JWs are saying, his lawyer is saying quotes from their religious material cannot be relied on as evidence. That's what they're saying. So the court is not competent to draw conclusions from religious texts. It is not for secular authorities to interpret them. The judge asked not use written quotes to illuminate what is practiced. Risdale answered, not if the religious interpretation. He says the consequences of the exclusion practice need to be proved with a larger survey. And he also says there is sparse examination of JW in Norway, an eclectic selection of evidence. Eclectic. So what does eclectic mean? Now, this is an important word. Obviously, it was used in court, and there's a couple of meanings for eclectic. Deriving ideas, style, or taste from a broad and diverse range of sources. Or the philosophy one is denoting or belonging to a class of ancient philosophers who did not belong to or found any recognized school of thought, but selected doctrines from various schools of thought. So that sounds like it, the Watchtower. It's the school of thought, these doctrines the judge has to examine this more. They don't have an idea. You know, the Elders book is secret, right? There's so much secrecy. The Watchtower is a lot like a secret organization when it comes to the elders, circuit overseers, district overseers, and how they run. They're not transparent, so they're more or less secret, eclectic, selection of evidence. So, eclectic selection of evidence, deriving idea, style, or taste from a broad and diverse range of sources. So it sounds like there has to be more information, the judge is saying, maybe. Incorrect facts. He says one can leave the religion and there are no consequences than leaving other religious communities. That's what the JW lawyer says. He says there are those who believe and those who do not believe. He said the requirement of subsidies is part of religious freedom. Subsidies. So it sounds like the JW lawyer wants the money. He says the requirement of subsidies is part of religious freedom. So JWs believe, the JW legal system, jw.org, believes that's part of religious freedom, is getting the money, the subsidies, from the government. So, quote, Religious Communities Act, excerpt 82, supporting religion and religious communities, withdrawal and joining from 15 years the right to religious matters. Most JWs are baptized after 15 years the right to determine one's own affairs. That's what the JW lawyer is saying. The right to autonomy, competence to determine conditions for oneself, lose the right to marriage. That's what they're saying. Obviously, he's saying it's discriminatory. JW history is now talked about, so the lawyer's saying, well, you know, we're all looked upon as bad and blah, 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 you know, the whiny story. What about the ex-JWs who can't talk to anybody? Yeah. JW evidence, history. One of several founded outside of Norway, but with full rights in Norway, persecution in Germany, subjected to heightened control, skepticism in many countries, doctrinal norms of behavior. This is JW's evidence, right? Then they go on, basic biblical texts at the center, the Watchtower and the Awake websites, communication channels 1985, excommunication is part of the belief, known to those who join, new development, stigmatization, God's chosen, not an objective representation in such channels. That was their argument, the JW argument. They also say that normal family relations will be intact, anchored in their religious literature. These three are the only ones who have come forward with criticism. None of them are members in the adulthood. So this is what their lawyer is saying. These three guys are are the only ones who have come forward with criticism. You know, if they would have known that day 3 all these other lineups were coming in. Maybe they didn't know that. I don't know. I think they know. I think they got to tell each side what's going on. Now, it goes on, critical experts from the selected texts that in no way correspond to what JWs themselves experience. Baptism is a personal choice. Contact with people outside is an independent choice. Of Jan Nilsson, he left the organization. It had no consequence for him. He himself presents that others are kept inside. How credible is that? That's how the JW lawyers discredit Jan. Says Rolf Furlu is setting up an agenda by comparing JW to the Catholic Church. So, contact with the excluded must be broken. Don't say hello. Up to each individual to follow the principles of contact, aunts, cousins, etc. Not a single piece of evidence that the consequences of losing family, nuclear family, breaking up contact causes significant psychological distress. So they don't admit that, Jehovah's Witnesses, that breaking a family causes a huge amount of psychological distress. In fact, lots of suicides, lots of problems. Look at all the problems we've seen all over the earth, you know, when it comes to bombings and things like that. So, okay, day 2. I'm not going to play the videos, but I will link this Reddit in the description below. You guys can, the videos just link right to the JW.org site. I played them on day 2. So we're just going to give this brief little summary. So on day 2, Norway's turn. So Norway got in front, and this was the lawyer here. We featured her, Christine Arvik. And the infamous JW.org shunning video was played in full to the court. So the link's here. We played it on our yesterday's video. The whole video was played. It means the court saw the part that demonstrated not only child baptism, but also the expectation of it and the later regret, because they showed it. Like, they did all the work for the court, really, the Jehovah's Witnesses in this video. They did a good job to show the court what it's actually like. These kids get baptized as kids, they get disfellowshipped, and then they get shunned. And then finally, they're forced to go back. They're forced to go back because they want to talk to their family. You know, lots of them don't even believe. I could give lots of experiences, but only yesterday, the JW lawyer said in court that normal family relations remains intact. The state argues denial of grant is not an attack on freedom of assembly. It's justifiable under law. The JW seeks compensation for 2021 to 2023. Now, the court's role. The courts review legality but cannot make decisions. Administration does. Legal starting point emphasizes no public registration needed for a religious community. So they can be a religious community. They don't need registration. They don't need all the grants and subsidies from the country. They can practice a religion. You see, it just costs them more money. And it's all about money for JW.org. Now, JW practice remains consistent. Recent legal developments prompt scrutiny. European Court of Human Rights plays a role in interpreting conventions. They have a problem with their conventions, and Japan's looking at this because if you look at this last summer's convention, you have toddlers and infants coming in to see all kinds of machine gun and warfare and scare tactics used on the people. So what they're doing in the conventions is child abuse, according to Japan. Now, focus on how JWs treat those who resign based on long-standing practices. They're going to look at all that. They're reviewing the data presented by the JW's lawyers, including their website, the governing body, the elders, and the Australian Commission report on Case Study 29. That's interesting, that they're taking other case studies in the world, this court, and they're looking at it. So this is great. They're exploring JW in Norway, the membership, the history, the women's role. Women's roles are important for Norwegians because women are treated equally in Norway. And by the way, the whole legal team is women in Norway for this case. It's interesting. And they're looking at financial details, an overview of their response to media coverage and interactions with the legal system. So they're going to look at how JW.org evades legal things, paying out child cases. This could shoot them in the foot, JW.org suing them, because now the court's going to open up more stuff. More stuff could come out. So it'll be interesting. They're going to analyze JW's responses to questions, letters, and inquiries, their stance on exclusion, baptism, and maintaining family ties. They're going to examine critique from R. Furley and others discussing perceived developments, potential misinformation, and media coverage. So that's going to be interesting. Misinformation. Now, detailing the legal implications of JW's practices, including the threats, that's a good word, of exclusion, and the impact on family relations. So exclusion is disfellowshipping, folks. That's the name Jehovah's Witnesses give it. Now, breaking down the procedures for exclusion, the role of judicial committees, the consequences for those expelled from the community. Might get into some elders book stuff. Highlighting excerpts from JW's publications, including books and articles, and illustrating the rigorous discipline and loyalty expected from members, right? It's like North Korea. Now, examining the impact of exclusion on family ties, including restrictions on contact, loyalty tests, and the challenge faced by those who choose to leave. It's like in North Korea, if your house burns down and you don't go and get the leader's pictures and you save your kids, you'll get executed. I don't know why I brought that in, but it just reminds me of it. Discussing the JW's recruitment practices, especially focusing on baptism from a young age and the expectations placed on minors. Very important. Very important. How they recruit their young people. And we can all attest, any of us that are on the outside and we want to talk about it. I had 2 kids in there, and it was a big push to get your kids baptized as young as you could, to save them, from dying at Armageddon or whatever. So the oral agreement at baptism. So the court's going to look at this. Yes to a lifelong commitment to the faithful and discreet slave. You see that? A lifelong commitment to the faithful and discreet slave. This is idol worship. The court's going to pull this up, and it's going to be publicized that everyone worships these 9 men in New York. That's how it works. Now, the baptism and the joining from the age 10, minors' lifelong loyalty, and many are recruited through upbringing, examples of encouragement to baptize early. And this is what it is. So required to end all normal contact also with family. Not correct that one can associate normally with immediate families. Minors who baptize forfeit their religious freedom and voting rights. And articles about exclusion from JW's own publications, loyalty and obedience to God's command. So the court will be looking at all this. Those regularly associated with a disfellowship person gets God's view on the matter, severely reprimanded, and an accomplice if you don't stop contact. Yeah. Removed and even disfellowshipped. So I covered that in the Elders book. That's a good one that they're covering this right in court. Excellent. Strictest form of discipline, your son. The degree of contact depends on age, living at home, physical cover, duty, difference if the son is not a minor and does not live at home, not eating in the Bible. So they're covering it. Even if necessary family matters, strive to avoid unnecessary association. Done something wrong, do not dismiss or trivialize biblical conduct. Do not take sides with your son, the devil, spiritual health, and risk. So this is just kind of a summary of the notes from the court. Page 874 in the book Organized in the Ministry, How to Treat Someone Who is Excluded, How Much We Love God, quoting not eating with disfellowship people, no spiritual social interaction with disfellowship people, entirely avoid them, and be loyal to God, which is really the watchtower. Real challenges, God is loving, and law for the best. So, they're covering it all. They're going to cover do not look for excuses to have contact. Remain in God's love, the family member. Baptized minors, disciplinary measures. Unbaptized minors, briefing in the congregation. No longer recognized. Be cautious about associating with them. And that's how they start marking people. Shepherding the flock. How to determine when it's necessary with a judicial meeting. Shameless behavior or lack of respect. We studied the Elders book briefly. We just looked at a few things. We found the word love. You can do a word search. 6 times. The word disfellowshipping 130 times. It's a book about, the Elders book is a book about enforcing. It's a book about fear and all these rules and all these areas that you pull people into judicial meetings. And these 3 elders are appointed by other elders. So they're all have narcissistic tendencies, and some of them come right out in these elder meetings. And they're not fair, the elders meetings. You're not allowed to bring in your own attorney or anything like that from the outside. And very seldom does anybody bring in anybody to help them in an elders meeting. They just take it. So I'm glad that this is all coming out in court. I'm so happy. They're going to cover how JWs do the unnecessary association with disfellowship, the judicial committees, deliberately continuing to associate will get you disfellowshipped. The JW Caleb and Sophie video, the steps to baptism, was played. This shows Sophie's mother getting baptized as a child. And a link to the video in JW.org takes the B out of the org. Okay. So we played that yesterday. Those are some of the videos. They right off the JW.org website. There's another one. So we're not going to cover that today. But again, we'll put the link in this video. If you guys want to look at them again, you can. So the org is big training children using these Caleb and Sophie videos. And that's all about training these young kids to be publishers, to get baptized. Okay, well, that kind of brings an end to the summary. And for the third part, we're going to take a look at this article posted by Jan Frode. And it's a summary regarding Norway, kind of a status. So, number one, Norway funds all religions, but there are terms that need to be met. Number two, after years of battling Watchtower with letters and article, the state has concluded that JWs break these terms. And there's some links here. This is a link to JW Avoid on Norway. We covered that yesterday, some of that stuff. But again, this will all be pinned, so you can look at the links if you want in detail. I'm just going to cover the article. So number three, funding for the 2021 was denied. Norway denied it. And if no new information appears or policy change, this will leave a permanent decision for all years to come. All Watchtower appeals in the government system has been considered and denied. Number four, when they are now removed from the funding system, their name on the list of funded religions will be removed. This is what we call registration. It's not a list of allowed religions in Norway, but a list of funded religions. They are all still free to worship, preach, and gather as always, no difference. Their current registration for 2022 would not be renewed for 2023. And again, there's a link there. So, no one's asking them to stop their religion. It's just not going to be funded by the state. Like, why would the state fund a religious organization that creates psychological trauma in children, and then the state has to pay for medical bills and treat these people? This is what's happening all over the world. There's victims that are coming out, and JW.org doesn't acknowledge it or treat them. They create them. And if this is a thing to come, I think all governments all over the world should be looking at this religious organization as a danger, as creating a liability to the nation. Not promoting higher education, not promoting, people are dying over its blood doctrine, which is not Bible-based, and we covered that on lots of videos. So it's no wonder that the Governments are starting to stand up, but thanks to all of the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that are actually speaking out and bringing this forth and telling the governments the rest of the story. Because Jehovah's Witnesses, in the big scheme of things, are a small religion. Most people around don't really care. They don't really know about it. But now it's on the news, so everyone kind of knows. So now, number 5, connected to a list of funded religions are the matrimonial privilege. When they are removed, this privilege disappears. They can still have the Kingdom Hall ceremonies as always, for those approved, aka those lying about funding, etc. But to make the marriage legal, the couple will have to sign the papers in the courthouse, the city hall, instead of inside the Kingdom Hall. That's all. So it's not a big deal. When I got married in the Jehovah's Witness religion, they wouldn't marry my fiance because they wouldn't let her get baptized. She wanted to get baptized. We waited a whole year and a half. They wouldn't baptize her, wouldn't baptize her, wouldn't baptize her. Why? Because they just want to be, they want to enforce their power. They actually told me not to get married. They want to control you. And so we just went and got married at the courthouse. That's what we did. And we didn't have anything in the Kingdom Hall because we were shunned. She wasn't baptized. So anyways, that's another story. But it's how many Jehovah's Witnesses within the religion are going to the courthouse to get married all over the world. I was one of them. So they can't whine about this stuff. It's good that they've lost this privilege, in my opinion. Number 6, Watchtower have sued the Norwegian government in court to get funding back. Yeah, they're very litigious. Their counterpart will be the Ministry of Children and Family, as religion is part of their ministry. Watchtower's claim is that this decision is a breach of freedom of religion and human rights, and the lawsuit was filed on 12, 21, and 22. As part of the lawsuit, Watchtower on 12 of 2222 asked the court for a temporary injunction that would protect JW Watchtower from any changes when the current registration runs out in 2022. A few days after the demand was filed, the courts took holidays and everybody else. The injunction was approved in a rush, and this was done after a one-sided demand from Watchtower. The state had no word in it, as it was no time to prepare the answer or argue it against it. So the judge said that this is not much at stake. No harm will be done if this is approved for a short time until the court decides otherwise. So the state had said that they will argue against this when the government attorney has had time to prepare their counter-argument. And this can happen at any time. As this is a civil lawsuit, most of the legal arguments will be done in written arguments ahead of court day before the one judge that will consider the case. So there's also a link to that. This is how Watchtower does it. They come in and they push, get quick decisions. But in this case, the judges are being very fair. We can see how Norway's been very fair all along. So for Watchtower to go out and cry human rights and poor us, they've had every opportunity to fix it. Number 9, the result of this is that until further notice, Watchtower keeps her matrimonial privilege. Regarding the funding, it means nothing, as funding gets paid out once a year and was already denied for 2021. So Watchtower plays a pretend and lets the whole world know that the attempt to remove the registration of Jehovah's Witnesses in Norway has been suspended. Praise be. So that's just so they can play the poor me card. Now, number 11, the real court case has not even begun. First, we will have a period with written arguments from both sides. Normally, there's negotiations, so it will be an attempt to reach an understanding on common ground. And Watchtower will never accept this. So at some point, a court date will be set. And I'll make sure to attend this day in court if possible and let you guys know. Number 12. When the court reaches its conclusion, the decision will be appealed. Excuse me. Yes, it will be appealed. There's just no way either Watchtower or the state will accept a loss here. As this is a first test on the new law from 2021 in Norway, there is no way the state will allow one single judge in the lowest court to say that the Norwegian government and the Norwegian parliament has made a law that breaches human rights and freedom of religion. And Watchtower is stubborn as far as always, and they want their money, and will spend a lot of money trying to get it back. And it's not even their money, it's the people's money, and it's subsidies. It's not their money. Watchtower wants money that comes from all kinds of taxpayers, Catholics, Protestants, but they want that money. Number 13, next level of courts. We're now in 2024. This will appear in Lagamine, whatever that is. After the decision is made, you can read it again. Now the decision will be appealed to the Norwegian Supreme Court. They will have two choices, either just refuse the appeal because they just feel the decision in the courts below is right, or accept a full hearing in SC, another court, Supreme Court. Since this will be an important principle regarding the new law, there's a good chance for Supreme Court to take this up. We're now in 2025 or late 2024. When the Supreme Court reaches a conclusion in 2025, so this is an assumption, this paper was written a while ago by Jan, and he's just kind of laying it out, right? So he says two things can happen. Watchtower wins, and that won't mean that they will get their money, but that Norway will have to reconsider the wording in the law or the decision. And the state will have to decide, or Watchtower loses. Watchtower will then sue the Norwegian state in Strasbourg. Number 16. Sometime in 2025, maybe 2026, the ECHR will consider this appeal. They can either just refuse to take it up. Most appeals are refused. That will end this spectacle. Or they can accept to look into the matter. Number 17. If they accept, this will be the ECHR case, Watchtower versus Norway, where Watchtower will have to argue that the funding is a basic need for their human rights in Norway. It's all about the money. Number 18, two things can happen. In ECHR, Norway wins the case, is settled, and puts precedents for all European countries, or Watchtower wins. Number 19, ECHR can't just overrule Norway and overrule the decision, but they can send the case back for new consideration in Norway. If that happens, there's several ways ahead. Norway can change a few words in the law, some words in the decision, and then go back to number 3 again, or they can split the funding and registration into separate laws, denying funding, but let them keep the registration matrimonial privileges. Time will tell. And number 20, we're now probably in 2027 or something, and I'm sick of all this mess I started. LOL. Moved on happily ever after, so I probably get DGAF anymore anyways. I'll try to answer your questions in the comments if you have any, but I'll only pop in now and then. So there you have it. Lots of stuff is on Avoid JW, and that kind of brings an end to our news articles. One of the things, just a point of question, there's a lot of us out there working out of Watchtower XJWs, and we have no leader. We have no one person out there organizing us. There's no organization, in fact. We're all doing our own thing. But what's interesting is somehow we're all organized. Somehow we're all working together all over the world. And somehow, although there's no leader, no organizer, somehow we're providing healing within for the ones coming out. All over the world. There's little groups in Spain, here in the US, Norway. And Watchtower doesn't like this. They're suing the little groups. They sued the one in Spain, lost. It's really showing the true colors of the Watchtower. But my question is, how are all these XJWs being organized? They're afraid of being shunned. Most of them won't show their faces. We don't know who we're talking to. We get anonymous stuff sent to us. Who's organizing the XJWs? Because it's organized, but it's not organized on Earth. So there's something I'll leave you to think about. Well, folks, until next time, keep living your day with love. Thanks again, and we'll see you on round 4. Bye for now. Thanks again for watching. We appreciate your comments, your dislikes, and your likes. If you would like to support the channel, just press join and buy us a coffee once a month. Until next time, keep dancing, smiling, laughing, and most of all, keep loving those around you. And have a great day.
Produced by Fixing My Faith.